The war room aboard the Sovereignty flagship Eternal Dominion had never been this quiet. Admiral Voss Kareth of the Keth Empire spread his 4 upper limbs across the tactical table and stared at the intelligence report his scouts had delivered 30 minutes ago. Around him stood the finest military minds in the galaxy, General Orin of the Vorath fleets, Commander Thessaly of the Nivelian strike force, and High Warlord Drim of the Outer Reach clans. Together, their combined fleets had subdued 14 rebellions, collapsed 3 civilizations, and held the galaxy's eastern corridor for 200 years. None of them spoke. On the table between them, a single image rotated slowly in the holographic display. A ship. A human ship. So large that the scout vessel that had photographed it appeared in the corner of the frame, like a child's toy accidentally left in the picture. 44 kilometers, General Orin said at last, his crystalline voice cracking on the last word. 44.7, Admiral Kareth corrected quietly. They're calling it the USCS Titan's Wrath. Another silence. We attack at dawn, said High Warlord Drim, before it reaches the corridor. No one objected. No one admitted they were afraid. Captain Elena Vasquez had commanded difficult ships before, destroyers, carriers, a deep space exploration vessel that had limped home on one engine through a debris field the size of a small country. But nothing had prepared her for the feeling of standing on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath and understanding, in her bones, what humanity had built. The bridge alone was larger than most frigates. Her crew of 600 moved across 3 elevated tiers, calm and precise, trained for years aboard this vessel before it ever left the shipyard. Lieutenant Commander Dario Reeves, her tactical officer, stood at the weapons console with the steady hands of a man who had run these drills 10,000 times. "We have company," said Ensign Yuki Tanaka from the sensor station. 23 Sovereignty vessels, bearing 047. They're moving in attack formation. Elena didn't flinch. She walked to the forward viewport and looked out at the stars. 23 ships. Every one a veteran of galactic warfare. Every one crewed by species that had been fighting among the stars since before humanity had discovered fire. She turned back to her crew. Battle stations. Let's show them what 80 years of work looks like. The Sovereignty fleet struck first, as expected. 48 hours of sublight approach collapsed into 3 seconds of chaos as plasma lances, mass drivers, and quantum burst torpedoes crossed the void simultaneously. The light show was extraordinary, brilliant and violent, and ancient in its fury. Every weapon system the galaxy's finest military minds had perfected over centuries was aimed at a single target. The Titan's Wrath absorbed it, not unscathed. Hull plating on the port flank buckled in 2 sections. Secondary shielding on the bow dropped to 60%, and 1 fighter bay lost pressure. Damage control teams moved through the corridors like a practice river. Nobody panicked. Nobody ran. And then the Titan's Wrath answered. Its primary array fired once. A single coordinated burst from 6 emitter banks, precisely calibrated by Reeves' console. 3 Sovereignty destroyers ceased to exist. Not destroyed. Erased, their mass converted to expanding light and heat in under a second. The remaining 20 ships stopped firing. They didn't retreat. They simply stopped, as though the galaxy itself had pressed pause, waiting to reconsider something fundamental about the nature of war. Admiral Kareth survived the battle. He sat in his damaged war room aboard the Eternal Dominion, surrounded by the wreckage of screens and the smoke of burned wiring, and watched the Titan's Wrath continue its course through the corridor, unhurried, unbroken, moving with the patience of something that had nothing left to prove. He had fought for 60 years. He had broken fleets, shattered alliances, and reduced proud civilizations to client states with nothing but iron will and superior firepower. He had never, in 6 decades of warfare, felt what he felt now. He opened a channel to Station Meridian, to the Sovereignty Council, to every leader of every empire that had voted to stop humanity's ship at any cost. He said 4 words. Do not try again. Back on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath, Elena Vasquez said nothing. She simply watched the stars open ahead of her and thought about the 80 years of sacrifice that had made this moment possible. Every engineer, every welder, every scientist who had worked in secret so that humanity would never have to fight from a position of weakness again. She allowed herself one small smile. Then she flew on,